In this video, we will cover what exactly the master checklist is and why it is important on the platform. The master checklist is also known as the university checklist. Normally, this is the checklist that allows student editing so that students can enter their own compliance information like dates and documents into myClinicalExchange and submit for approval to their university coordinator. The master checklist is not the same as the hospital checklist. The hospital checklist and its compliance requirements are set by each individual hospital and normally does not allow student editing. There are a few exceptions that do allow student editing on the hospital checklist, such as Kaiser Permanente, the Banner Employee ID, and advanced practice students at St. Anthony Hospital in Colorado. Please direct your students to the YouTube training video titled Banner Employee ID for directions on how to complete that item for the Banner checklist. For hospitals that do allow student editing, please direct your students to our YouTube training video titled Updating a Hospital Checklist. How should you set up a master checklist and what items should be included on it? In this example, a school partners with 3 different hospitals. Hospital A requires a negative background check and the month, day of birth and the influenza vaccine with a supporting document. Hospital B requires the full date of birth and the influenza vaccine as well as a supporting document. Hospital C has the negative background check that requires a supporting document and the MMR. So, with these 3 hospitals in mind, this is how we suggest building a master checklist for this university. First, we would add a negative background check to cover the requirement for Hospital A. Then we would add the month, day of birth, also for Hospital A. Next comes the influenza along with the supporting document. This covers the requirement for both Hospital A and Hospital B. We would also add the full date of birth. Month, day of birth is a different requirement, and since we don't capture the year in this requirement, we would need to add a separate item to the checklist to cover both these requirements for the 2 hospitals. Next, we would add MMR, which meets the requirement from Hospital C. Finally, Hospital C requires the negative background check like Hospital A. However, Hospital C also requires a document of proof. We would then make a supporting document a requirement for the background check on our master checklist. Students will have access to their master or university checklist even before being assigned to a rotation. This allows the student to begin working on their compliance requirements in advance. They can enter the required dates and supporting documents on their master or university checklist and submit for approval to their university coordinator. So what does this look like on the live site? Let's replace these little text boxes with some screenshots. Here is what the university checklist would look like in myClinicalExchange. The students are able to enter dates in the value column and provide supporting documents against the 2 items that require it. The student then submits for approval, we review and approve, and here is a master university checklist that's completely filled out. Note that there are no more red flags on the checklist and no yellow highlights. When the student is scheduled on rotation, the information will cascade into the hospital's checklist automatically. Here you can see that the information has cascaded from the master checklist to Hospital A's checklist. And here they have cascaded to Hospital B's checklist. But let's say an item isn't added to the master checklist, but it's still required at the hospital. What will happen? For example, let's remove MMR from our master checklist. Now we schedule this student at Hospital C, and the negative background check cascades down, but the MMR field is blank. Remember that students are not able to edit the hospital checklist themselves. Only clinical coordinators can edit or update hospital checklists for the students. So, can you update a hospital checklist? You can at any time, but should you? And what happens to this information? If you enter an item on a hospital checklist, it will stay there for just that hospital. The information will not travel backwards to the master checklist, and the information will not cascade sideways to another hospital when a student is scheduled elsewhere. So, if the requirement is not on the master checklist, you may find yourself entering the same information on individual hospital checklists. That's why we encourage making the university checklist a true master checklist. Now, there is a bit of work upfront for the students in completing the entire master checklist, but as time goes on and they are scheduled for rotations at various hospitals, they won't need to come back in and work on the compliance checklist each time. You and the students have already completed the university or master checklist, and other than the few items that expire yearly, you and the students are done with the checklist. We can add or remove items from your master. If you would like us to add or remove an item to your master checklist, or if you need to match a hospital's checklist, please email us at support@myClinicalExchange.com with your request, and we'll take care of it. Again, that's support@myClinicalExchange.com. Thank you for watching our help video.